Hey, Derek.
What's up? What's up? What's up?
How are you doing? It's so good to see you always. Like
As
always.
always, always. It's like catching up with a longtime friend, even though
I
we talk all the
know.
time.
Like, I don't know. It just seems like every time I talk to you, either it's online or offline, I
Uh-huh.
learn a little bit more about you each and every time. And I'm like, man, this guy is so cool.
Oh, I appreciate it. Listen, I mean, I enjoy for me, I've always said like just, conversing and talking, to people, you get to know so many different things about somebody and so many different levels of a person. So the more comfortable you get, it's kind of like you gain access to another level.
Mhm.
And and that's the things that I was talking to a guy earlier today that he hired us for a project, and out of that hiring we became friends. And he's a older white guy consultant. Shout out to Scott, he's in Charlotte, and we were just catching up today. But from the outside, you would think that we had nothing in common, but we have so many different things that in common. And today we were just talking about, our faith. We were talking about the work that we do. He loves he subscribes to my rules of Ross, and he was like, "Yo, Derek, like, I want to let you know that even if you feel like no one is getting anything from it, I'm getting something from it." So, yeah, I truly value conversations and just building authentic relationships.
I love that. So we're gonna go ahead and get everything kicked off. Because I want to tap in all that. So with that being said, hey, what's up, everybody? It's your girl Camille Essick. I'm the host of the Speaker Podcast. This is the podcast where innovators and creators connect. Just a few announcements. If you haven't heard, you can go on my website, www.camilleessick.com, and pre-order my new ebook, How to Start a Podcast with Less Than $100. Yes, we are celebrating that. In addition, you can order right now the Self-Love Guide, my second ebook, which is now available on the website as well. So if you're somebody that you've always been self-critical, you're always overthinking things, you want to get to a better, healthier you as far as your mindset, go on my website right now and order the Self-Love Guide that is available, as well as my newest room sprays. Chemistry is here. I have 10 cents available. You're going to love them. Trust me, I mix everything myself. Chemistry right now on my website at www.camilleessick.com. And my brother and friend here, Derek D. Ross. Derek, if you, oh my gosh, don't introduce yourself to these people, I don't know what to say.
What's up? Listen, first of all, I got to say, I just got to give you a hand clap. I'm so proud, and I'm just inspired by all the work that you're doing. Just even from our last conversation to drop 2 ebooks, have it. Come on now, like I have to give you flowers. Like I got to pause. Like forget about me right now. I want to give you all the great things that you're doing, all the work you're putting in to your business, to your brand, just to your growth as an individual. Just shout out to you.
Oh,
Just shout
thank
out to
you.
you.
Thank you so
Also,
much.
also.
Well, enough about me. Okay,
Okay.
let the people know if they don't know you by now from watching my show or listening to the podcast. Let the people know who you are and what you do.
What's up? What's up, everybody? My name is Derek D. Ross. Don't forget the D, and I am your brand and creative strategist and publicist. So I work with brands and entrepreneurs to help them unpack their ideas and break through their creative roadblocks in order to create strategies so that they can amplify their voice, their visibility, and impact and make great impact while staying true to who they are. I think the biggest thing that I have experience over the course of my 16 years in this field, just kind of working from the corporate side to the personal branding side, is that it all boils down to what you represent, who you are, what your values are, and what impact that you want to make in the world. And I think a lot of people get so caught up in the comparison and looking at what everybody else is doing that they forget their own voice, and they forget to focus in on their unique gift.
Mhm.
And that's where I come in. I help you do that. I help you share your story. I help you find that, and I help you amplify that so that you can truly reach the people that you're assigned to serve. So
I love it. And with that being said, Derek, you have dealt with some interesting personalities and dealing with the I see your face. The unique gifts, air quotes, and
mm-hmm.
also air quotes on the unique personalities. So how do you deal with just the complexity of different personas? People don't know you've been in the game for a minute. Like this is not something you just welcome to say, hey, I want to start branding and be a consultant and a publicist. Like you've been in the game for a while. So during your journey, Derek, what have you experienced that have you had a moment where you're like, wow, I can't believe they even said that to me?
Ooh, yeah, I can remember there was a moment early in my career. I was working with an agency. That's where I got a lot of my training, my background from. And you know, coming out of college, like they really don't teach you, you know, all the real world experiences that you'll go
Right.
through when you start working for a corporation, right? They
They
don't
go.
teach you about the culture and the politics and all the different things that you will have to kind of learn on the job and navigate. And
Mm-hmm.
so I remember early on in my career, I was so focused on getting it right and doing a good job that I took a lot of things personally. Like if someone was mad at something, then I made it that, oh, I did something wrong or I did something bad. And I really kind of like, okay, how can I fix it? And a lot of times when looking back in hindsight, it had nothing to do with me, right? It was some things that, you know, they had a bad day or whatever, and they just took it out on me or whoever. And so as I got older, I was able to understand it a lot better and then be able to decide how I wanted to use that experience moving forward to treat other people that I would come in contact and that I would end up working with through my business. But I think it was 2008. I was in DC for Obama's first inauguration. It was cold as I don't know what.
I bet.
My entire family, my mom, my uncles, we all went. We were up early because we went out to, of course, to to get a good spot. So we got on the metro. We were out there, cold, long day. Inauguration's over. Everything went great. I'm getting back to the hotel. And mind you, before I left, the client that I was working with, we had just finished producing like a 44-page like magazine, so to speak, and it was really all about the event and all this great stuff. And mind you, this is not the first time we produced it, right? This was like the second or third year. I just finished all the edits. Everything was good. We sent it off to press. So I'm took a nap and I get a call. And I'm like, I already told everybody I'm off. Like, why are people calling me? And I see it's the actual client. And I was like, oh shit, okay. So I answered the phone, I'm like, hello. And when I say I got cussed out, when I say I got flat cussed out, I got flat cussed out. Like I said, I've never been cussed out this bad before in my life.
He
I
said this
got
is it.
cussed straight out.
Oh.
And I was like, what in the world? And so, you know, and I looked up to this man like as a mentor. Like he's older. And, you know, we had our conversations. He was like, learn everything you can learn and then take it and apply it to your own business in the future. And so I'm looking at this man like kind of almost like a father figure, right? A grandfather figure, so to speak. And so I was hurt, one, like, you know, heart wise, I was hurt. But second, like from a work perspective, I was like, this is like seriously disrespectful. And so he was mad, pissed off because of a picture of him in the book around his bio that was amazing, right? It was a great picture. They didn't take any new photos. And so the pictures that they sent to me to pick was the one that we used in the previous book and one that their communications focus sent over that was like a snapshot of like a glamour shot photo. And like, you could not use this, like, come on. And so without, I guess, somebody not even telling him, he just assumed that, oh, I just picked whatever picture I wanted to pick. And so that assumption cussed me out, hung up the phone, and I'm sitting there like, I want to quit. I was like, I'm done. And here I am, you know, I want to say around like, I'm about 25, 24, 25, early in my career. And here I am like, oh my God. And it's like, we've just printed like, I don't know how many thousands of these, like what is going on? And about 20 minutes later, he called me back and, you know, he apologized. He said, you know, I want to apologize for what I said, you know, because I explained to him, I was like, look, like the other picture would have been even worse. I said, that was the only option we had. We had to go to press. And I said, you know, I said, maybe in the future we can set up a photo shoot and take more photos, but you know, that's it. And he apologized and got off the phone. I remember talking to my mom and she was just like, you know, take a breath, you know, go for a walk, you know, it has nothing to do with you. You know, you did a great, amazing job. You know, that's just them. And in that moment, I learned that the only thing you can control in moments like that is yourself. And for me, I learned in that moment, like, okay, if that's the worst that can happen, like if the fear of making my client mad or somebody cussing me out was ever like the biggest fear of my life, well, baby, you just face that fear. You know what I'm saying? And so at that point, I was just like, okay, well, hell, you know, the worst that could happen, so to speak, happened. And not even by anything of my doing, it just happened. And so I was like, okay, cool. So moving forward, it really toughened me up. It gave me more of a voice.
Mm-hmm.
that I really didn't exercise before, really up, speaking up for myself and really protecting my boundaries and protecting. So I took taking a situation and somebody else's BS and then turning it into a lesson, into a moment for me where I could really see like, okay, Derek, if you can handle this, you can handle anybody and anything. And I took that moving forward.
Wow. I think in just hearing you just retell or recall that situation, Derek, um, do you think maybe it wasn't even so much as you, but their ego? Like, why would someone even come at you like that? And then some people that we revere, you don't realize they have a whole nother facade that we don't know about, another face we don't know about.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes we have a tendency to put people on pedestals and we only see like this much of them, and then that's like a whole other piece of the puzzle we're not even seeing, because everybody can always show you their best face. And I said before, if you want to know how somebody really feels, piss them off, and that real face will show up every time.
Every time. And when you said that, I heard this quote recently, and it was like, never meet your heroes, because if they aren't who they portray to be on film or on television or when the cameras are on, and then they have a whole nother facade on the back end, be careful, because that actually might disappoint you and let you down. And so for me in this particular situation, I heard about their tendencies, but I had never experienced it personally, and I was just like, oh, that would probably only come out if somebody really did something bad. But to know that what I did and what I received was not because of my doing, but because of you all's lack of preparation. It really made me shift to say, okay, people will blame others for their mistakes. And so this is something you should pay attention to moving forward in your career, because, and like I said, and because of that, I started to see that more and more people's insecurities showed up in nasty, ugly ways, where their jealousy or their, whatever they felt about you, they would
Mhm.
try to get themselves a leg up by trying to throw you under the bus. But one thing about me, Camille, I always keep receipts. You ain't
Yeah,
gonna never catch me without a receipt. And that's one of the early lessons that I learned. Is like, I'm always going to be thorough. I'm always going to have it checked off. I'm gonna double check, triple check, because I'm gonna be covered. If ain't nobody else gonna be covered, I'm gonna be covered. And that was one of the early lessons I learned in my career that I use to this day. Like, you're
mhm.
not gonna catch me slipping
That's
at
a
all.
really good point as far as keeping the receipts, because you never know when something can come back to bite you later. Even
Mm-hmm.
in the business arena, when I've experienced before, whether in the military or not in the military, where someone can say one thing, and most people will delete it like and their little voice will go, no, I think I need to create that folder in Outlook and keep it. And when I did, the infamous per your last email.
I was just about to say that. I
Well,
was
for your
just.
last email, this is what you said, and then seeing them said email,
Mm-hmm.
in those situations. But pivoting even from the professional arena, Derek, what about in the personal life, like our relationships and friendships? How do we take the misgivings of people, like what people have done to us, we've given them our best, and they give us less than that, and just come with us just with these mediocre presentations, what they package as friendship or relationship?
I always say, for me, just give people enough time,
Mm-hmm.
and their true character, their true intent will show out. I mean, because at the end of the day, we all have, we're all looking to get something out of something, right? And again, just because that's the case doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad thing, right? You know, for instance, my friendship with you, like, we have great conversations, and I know at some point, because of your skill set, because of my skill set, we can support each other down the road. And so I would rather have someone in my circle, someone that I trust, someone that I've built a rapport with, and ask them for support or help, than somebody that I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Because then I can trust who that person is, and I know their intention. And so the same thing, I say the same thing with friendships. People are quick to throw the word friend around, and for me, I need to see that just like love is an action word, friendship is an action word. And for me, and it's tried and true, the people that are still in my life as friends is because their words match their actions. And when I needed them, they were there, and vice versa. We hold each other to the fire. If we can have disagreements and still bounce back and be cool, it's not taken personal. And then I've had friends that, their actions didn't match my values, and I said deuces, right? Because, when people start to say, oh, or ain't that your friend? Whoa, 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 hold up. what you mean is that my friend? And then you have to figure out. And for me, I've always been a person that's always kept it real and 100. Like any of my friends would tell you that I'm a shoot straight from the hip, but I'll do it from a place where I think about tone. I also think about, okay, is am I coming from a place of love, right? Am I coming from a place of care and concern? Because I never want to do something or come off in a place because it's satisfying my own ego, right? I want to make sure that if you ask me for my opinion, then I'm going to give it to you real, 100% straight, no chaser, because you're asking me. And as a friend, I owe you that respect to give it to you for real. But if I give you kind of like a half behind response, because I'm like, oh, well, they're gonna be mad if I say this, and then if I'm afraid to have a conversation with you as my friend, then really, what is the depth of our friendship? Like, what is it? Is it shallow like a kiddie pool, or is it really deep where we can have those deep conversations? And so for me, whether it's in work or in personal, is I always look at your actions. I always look to say, what are you saying? Do your words match your actions? Are you doing it from a place of love? Are you consistent with it? Right? Because there's some people that'll show up and only show up when it benefits them, and then you don't see them no more, and then they're back showing up, later, and it's like, well, you start to see the patterns. And so for me, it's always just watching, because you can only do so much. And people are these nowadays, people who are not truly intentional and like who truly don't have your best interest, they're lazy, and laziness cannot last. Laziness is not consistent, right? So the effort that they put in, they're not going to be able to sustain.
Yeah, that's a really good point. When you said their actions don't match with the word that doesn't match your actions, I thought about times and people in my life that I've known for years. That's my girl, you my home girl, whatever. But in some of the hardest times of life, when every time I've been there for you, but in those moments, you want me to just drop everything
Mm-hmm.
and be there. And then when I needed you to be there, you didn't have my back, or you weren't there when I needed someone to talk. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like the reciprocity. It's the reciprocity for me.
Mm-hmm.
And just the way I love and give and I support and I'm rooting for you. Like, come on, return the favor,
Mm-hmm.
and I just, it just blows my mind how people have the audacity sometimes to have that mindset. And I know people are people, whatever, but over the years I have really learned the true meaning of the word friendship.
Yeah.
And some people that, I once, gave that label to, I had to, recall that and go, wait a minute, are you an acquaintance? Are you an associate? And had to recategorize some people. And then some people that I thought was just an acquaintance, they showed up. And I'm like, oh, that's my friend. Adversity will reveal your friends. Adversity reveals friendship.
Yeah, it's and what ended up happening for me was, over time I started to see their capacity.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is their true capacity to really be the type of friend that I require, and the type of friend that they are able to actually really be, because some people aren't equipped with the skills or the values to really be the type of friend that they profess or that they aspire to be, right? They don't have the emotional intelligence, they don't have the discipline or the patience, they don't have the tact, right? They just don't have it. And
lacking the emotional IQ.
yeah, exactly. Some of it's because that's how they were raised, and that's what atmosphere that they were brought up in, and so they never really saw what a true friend is, and so they could only be a friend at a certain capacity, right? And then after that, that's all that you can expect from them. And so for me, I even had to check myself to say, okay, well, what am I expecting from this person, and can this particular person even be that for me? Because my disappointment might be my lack of understanding what they can actually carry as my friend. And so even for me, I started to look at my friendships in that perspective. And so now I have categories of friends, of people that I know that I can, like, if I need to be bailed out, that's the friend that I go to. They're gonna hold a secret, they're gonna bail it out, and they're gonna come get me, right? And that's it. Ain't no questions asked. Then there's some people that I'm like, okay, they're just friends, like they're my prayer friends. I can just go, like, some of them cross, but there's some people that only do small things. Some people can do major things. But over time, it's helped me to understand what I can put on people, who I can trust, who I have to keep certain things from, because they may just be, every so often friend, right? They're cool, we associates, right? But and I know you for a long time, but you could only carry certain things of me because you haven't shown me that you are actually a friend at that depth. And that's okay, right? And that's okay. People have different, people have different levels. And I think it's okay for us to give ourselves permission to categorize people. We don't have to tell them where they are, right? But we get to categorize the people and how they show up in our lives, and what doors we allow them in and what doors we don't.
Yes, and I think for myself, sometimes I feel like you don't have to make a grand announcement and and do this long monologue on why I'm pulling back. Sometimes I will just quietly do so because you have some people, the way their personality is set up, they're not someone you can sit down and have a reasonable conversation with them. You know, whether they got some narcissism going on or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, you know what, is this really worth my energy? Now, if it's really worth salvaging and you feel like, hey, because I feel like as long as I've known you, even if we had a riff, I think you and I could talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
We have that level of maturity and understanding versus, someone over here, you know your people. And you're like, you know what, I already know how this will go. So let me just quietly pull back and make myself less readily available because I know at the end of the day, it'll just be a hamster on a wheel. We'll just be going round and round forever and ain't go nowhere.
I have two a great example of two friends, very similar situations, two different totally outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
One of my friends, we had one of my best friends, we had a falling out, and
Mm-hmm.
it was really over a miscommunication, right? We were talking, jokes ended up, hitting the wrong way. We were in a group chat, and text people misread things, and it just
Right.
kind of escalated, and we didn't talk for like a minute. We didn't talk for, I think it was like 3 or 4 months. And I was like, in my instance, I was just like, okay, we just needed a break. We just need that time apart. We just need, because in my head, I was like, you know what, that, is the friendship worth the reconciliation?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it was, because any and every time I needed that person, they were there, no matter what. And I was like, and I can look back at all of our years and of all the times that we've been friends, maybe this is probably the first major blow up that we've ever had. So I was like, of course, I'm not going to throw it away, but I am going to respect the time and the space that I need and that they may need as well, and allow time to aid in the healing process. And then I remember one day it was heavy on my heart to reach out. And my mom was like, well, if it's heavy in your heart, she was like, then you need to be the bigger person. You need to reach out, because what example are you maybe setting for them to say, hey, if they had this situation with somebody else in their life, what you're doing for them might be blueprint for them to do to somebody else. And I was like, dang you. And so I texted them, and they were just like, hey, like, it's good to hear from you. We said, hey, let's grab dinner.
Mm-hmm.
We had dinner and we talked about it, and we put it on the table, and we cleared up wherever the miscommunication was. And we have been tighter ever since, and we've still have our conversations, but it creates a safe space where you can be real with somebody and know that your words are not going to be used against you, and that your opinion is really heard and felt, right? Because one thing that I don't like is if you ask me for my opinion or my advice on something and I give it to you, and then you ask 1,000 other people that you don't even know on social media, and then you do something opposite of what you asked me, don't ask me no more. Don't ask me no more. Because like as your friend, and me knowing you, knowing your situation, knowing who you are, then if you're going to ask me, then I trust that, okay, then for me, that's an honor. But then you ask everybody else who don't know you, don't do that. So that's one scenario. So that worked out. Other scenario is I had a friend, and we had a disagreement very similar, and we talked about it. Because see, for me, I'm not a texter. Like if we got a disagreement, I picked up the phone and I said, hey, let's
Me too.
talk. What's
Yeah.
up? What's going on? And we had a whole conversation. We talked about what the disagreement was. I apologized. They apologized. I said, are we good? They said, yes, we're good. Why am I hearing that you're talking about it to somebody else a few months later? And I'm hearing from a mutual friend. And at that point, I was like, I can't trust someone who, if we're good and we squash it amongst us and we have a conversation, then why are you repeating something that we have already discussed? We had closed the chapter on it and we moved on. And you're discussing with people who are not really your friend, for an audience. And so me and that person didn't talk forever, for like almost like a couple years. And I
Wow.
got a message for them recently that, apologizing, saying that you've always been a great friend, and I never wanted, I would never discount that. And I said the same thing. But
The trust, like the
you
level of
know,
trust has been broken. Like,
exactly. But how I know where you are, I just know where to keep you. at this
Mm.
stage moving forward, unless I see something different. And if I choose at that point to re-engage, then at that point I know how to walk, very cautiously in that space if I choose to do that. And I get to choose. I don't have to, just because you reconciled and just because you reached out, I don't have to, reconcile. As she said, is your friendship worth the reconciliation? You get to choose what's in the best interest of your life, your peace, and where you at right now versus then. And for me, that's what I look at and what I think about, what really serves me and my peace and where I'm going and where I'm heading, and who are the people that can come along on that ride, and who needs to stay at home at the train station.
I love it. And thank you to Alicia for asking that question. And shout out to Deborah Davis for her comment. She says, a friend will tell you the truth out of love and will not put you down, but to put you on. So that's a really good comment. So with that being said, Derek, when we are dealing with people and situations and relationships, because we can handle it two ways. Like you said, we can reconcile and move on, but some people want to hold on to the experiences. They become bitter and just say, well, I'm not going to trust anybody anymore. I'm never going to make myself that vulnerable to anybody ever again. We can have that attitude, or we can pivot and just say, well, you know what? It was a learning lesson. I learned some things about myself. I learned more about that person that I didn't realize. And take those nuggets and say, you know what? Like you said, put that person in a compartment and move forward. So what is your take on taking people's crap or their BS and moving forward and using that to fertilize your growth as a person?
I say a lot of times people's BS teaches me more about myself and where the areas I need to work on. Because sometimes people's BS, does it trigger me to then jump into the BS with them and just go back and forth? Because if so, then it's like, okay, Derek, is this really how you want to be seen, like covered in BS? Like when people see you and people interact with you, you're always in some BS, right? And so for me, it really helps me to kind of say, okay, Derek, did you handle that right? Like, what can you, because again, in the day, we can't control anybody else but ourselves. So for me, I look at other people's BS to measure where I am in my maturity, and to also measure, okay, where do I need to work on? Because if somebody who is a friend can, really trigger me in a way, or surprise me, right? Then I missed something. Like I clearly was not paying attention, and I missed something. If yeah, if someone feels that comfortable to disrespect you and give you BS at a level that you wouldn't expect from someone you would consider your friend, then for me, I missed something, and I need to reevaluate, why we were friends in the first place, and has our friendship expired, or can it still be, sustained and built upon, right? Is it worth trying to reconcile, or just getting rid of it all day long and just saying, hey, the time that we spent was great, but it's up. And so for me, when people do things, I really take a step back to really kind of say, okay, Derek, did you miss the mark anywhere? I go internal first, because it's quick to say, okay, them. It's like, no. But then once I'm good, and when I'm like, no, I didn't do anything to them. I've always been honest. I've always been XYZ. Then I know it's something that they're working on, and I don't really take it personal. I give them the space they need. Now, one thing that I have grown to do is I'm going to let you know how I feel. Like what you said and what you did, this is how I felt. This is how it made me feel. So that way, I don't let them off the hook to be able to go and do that to somebody else. Because I think we have a responsibility with the people in our lives to really teach them. Like, we're in people's lives for reasons. So even if we're not friends anymore, and if you do something, then it's my responsibility, even if you don't receive it today, to let you know what your actions did and how it made me feel. So that way you don't just go around life, all willy-nilly, and continue to do the same thing to other people, and passing on this traumatic experience to others. No, I'm gonna let you know. And then maybe when you mature, maybe when you grow, maybe when you get some awareness, you can look back and be like, dang, I did that. And maybe you apologize, but if not, hopefully it sowed a seed or planted a seed for you to really look at. Because I always say, and one of my mentors says this all the time, you can't unsee something that you see. You can't unhear something that someone's told you. It's always going to sit there. And so I think as individuals, we have a responsibility to share how we feel, our experience of someone, right? I experienced you as XYZ. That means that's my experience. You can't tell me how I experience you because you're not in my shoes.
Right.
Now, if there's a miscommunication, this is your opportunity to be like, you know what? Wow, I didn't know you experienced me like that.
Right.
I apologize. Like, that's not my intention. That might be a real friend response. And some people are like, oh, you just tripping. Okay, cool. You just disregarded my experience as a person and me as your friend by saying, oh, you tripping. Pay attention to those things.
Yeah, and you made up a really good point when you were saying the red flags, because sometimes I feel like we see those red flags, and like you said, we don't realize it until later. And even in the process, and I've done it before, we've excused the behavior because of, oh, well, maybe it's just this, or maybe it was just that. Something I learned doing my coursework with graduate studies is called truth biasness. And what the word means is pretty much we're blinded by the representation that this person is giving to us, that face. And because of what they're representing, we tend to excuse some red flags because we see or want to see the person in this light, or this is what they presented, when in reality, those things keep popping up, ding, ding. And we're just like, well, maybe they're just having a bad day, or maybe, well, they're just under a lot of stress and they've had a lot going on, or, they had a hard upbringing. We have all these other explanations, when reality, like Dr. Maya Angelou said, when people show you who they are, believe them.
Believe them. Believe them. And I would say that's been the common lesson over even as far as I can look back, when I started, becoming more aware of the types of individuals that I have in my life and the type of people that I can depend on and what I need to feed my spirit and my soul, right? And the type of friends that I want to have in my circle, and what's valuable to me, right? It's kind of like even looking at it, when you look at a romantic relationship, there's certain non-negotiables when it comes to having a partner. And when I look at friendships, I look at that as being, long time, partnerships. Like when at this stage, I'm not just being your friend just to be your friend to hang out in Miami. If you're my friend, if I call you my friend today, it's because I want something deeper and I want it to grow, because we're older now, right? We're, what I'm saying? We're not just in getting friends for the sake of being popular, like high school or middle school.
We're not doing this for life.
We're not doing this. Right. You know what I'm saying? This is real life. And so anybody that I consider and I call a friend is because I value them. There's something in them. There's something in how they move, how they speak, their values, what they represent that aligns with me as well. And I feel safe. I feel comfortable. And I feel, and I feel privileged to have, that type of connection, because there's a lot of fake people, a lot of fake friendships out here. And I'm like,
that's motives. Yeah.
Motives, right? And so that's how I approach it now, more than anything. And I see it, and I give it time to, to grow and to manifest and be consistent and making sure I'm doing my part, because it's a two-way street. So I still have to make sure that I show up and that I am giving what I'm expecting. So if I want my friends to be good communicators, then Derek, you got to be a good communicator too. If I want my friends to show up and support me, I got to show up and support them. And, and so it's all, and that's a process. So for me, I'm in it for the long run. And so for me, it's just like, yo, if I'm in it and I'm going to commit to it, kind of like being a business owner or whatever, if you're going to commit to the ebbs and flows of it. Right. And so it's
cyclical. It goes up and it goes down, peaks and valleys.
Exactly.
I love that. So to pivot on, Derek, when we are dealing with these ups and downs of people, whether it's professionally or personally, how does someone stand in adversity when they've hit a wall in life? Particularly, I know we keep hearing about the pandemic, like, over it. Like if I hear that word one more time, I could just scream. But just, it's our reality right now. People are experiencing loss. They're reconstructing their lives, pivoting from leaving corporate America to going to small business, or just dynamics in relationships. How does someone stand in adversity when God has given them the vision or the dream for one thing, and what God showed them is not lining up with what is manifesting right now in their current reality?
One of the things that has helped me a lot is really reminding myself this is only temporary. So I think sometimes we can look at temporary situations with permanent mindsets or permanent eyes, and it throws us into a cycle of fear, right? And for me, when I started to look at things as, okay, this is just temporary, because before this, like, has this always been my situation? No, it hasn't. It hasn't always been my situation. Is it my current situation? Yes. Okay. What's the worst that can happen in this situation? Because I think sometimes if we don't face the fear, we'll create a story around what the fear is, and we will live in that story. And so, again, it's only temporary. Nothing is permanent. It's all except for death. When you die, it's gone. You're dead. You're gone. You know what I'm saying? But but other than that, everything in life is temporary, right? And how so taking a step back and looking at, okay, what is this scenario, this situation teaching me? And it's hard to do it in the moment. A lot of times you'll have that reflection in hindsight, right, as you mature. And so, but I look at it from a perspective of, okay, it's temporary. One, what is the next best step I can take?
Mm-hmm.
Because in those moments, you need to just be looking at things step by step. You don't need to be looking down like 20 steps ahead. You need to be looking at things step by step, especially when you're in a moment of adversity, because you really only have the capacity to take one step at a time while dealing with all the emotions, all of the feelings, the rawness of it, the uncertainty of everything. You don't have the capacity to think so many steps ahead.
Too emotional. So you need to break it
Yeah,
down and make it
you gotta break it
digestible.
down. Yeah,
Mhm.
just kind of like baby food or whatever. You just got to break it down so that you can at least get the nourishment, right? The food out of one bite
Right.
at a time, right? And just chew it up, sit in it, understand. Because like even in the pandemic, when it first hit, there were some gaps in my business and gaps even in my relationships. And I was just like, yo, I thought that was a little stronger than that, but it wasn't.
Mhm.
And so in the midst of it, I was like, okay, what can I do to really, understand and better, prevent this from happening again, or at least be prepared? And it was really sitting in the moment. A lot of times we want to run from the moment instead of really sitting and being present in the moment, because that's where the lesson is. That's where we are. We're not in the future. We're right here. And so that's what I did a lot of this during the pandemic. And just even when I look back over my career, it's just sitting in the moment of it. Okay, this don't feel good. I am mad. I don't know where my next check is coming from. Okay, cool. All right, but okay, but I'm still here. I'm still breathing. Because even in the midst of it, you still got to look at the things that you have and that you're grateful for, right?
Yeah.
I'm still here. I'm still breathing. I'm still alive. I still have a great network of people and friends. Okay, well, who do I know? And so you start to ask yourself better questions, more powerful questions, which leads to powerful answers, right? And things that you're able to see and pay attention to, as opposed to moments when when you are looking at everything from a negative perspective. All that's going to show up is negative, right? Your brain is a search engine, right? And so whatever you give it to search, it's going to look for examples of that in your brain. So if you're only focused on negative things, then it's going to pull up all these negative things in your mind to give to for to then tie in to, okay, why this is true about your situation. Oh, well, no one loves me. Okay, it's going to look at all the scenarios in your life why you thought or why you felt that people didn't love you, because that's what you're focused on. So when you shift your focus and you look at it from a perspective like, okay, you know my friends are winning. So if they're winning, that means that it's possible for me because it's possible for them, right? But then also, okay, well, there's been other times that I've had crazy situations. And although I've never been in a pandemic before, I have been in challenging situations where I didn't know what was going to happen next, but I survived. So that means that I can survive this. Okay, what do I need? What do I need right now in this moment? And being clear about what do you need right now? And I think what happens is when we ask questions, we aren't clear, so that the answer goes everywhere. But we're really clear. If I say, you know what, I really want to create a podcast. Like I really want to talk. I really want to share my voice. I don't like being on video, but I really want to have a podcast. Who do I know in my circle? Who do I know that can help me? If I'm clear, then I know Camille has an ebook coming out with her podcast, right? And I can reach out to Camille and I can get that, right? But if I just say, hey, I don't know what I do, I want to talk and I want to, do whatever, then you're not getting really clear. You didn't do your own research on that end and do the part where what you can do. And then when you hit the brick wall, you start to ask the questions like, okay, who do I know that can help me? Because you can't do it by yourself.
I love that. And the thing that stuck out to me when you were talking about perspective, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes even within our mind, we fight, different things. And that's one of the reasons why I created the second ebook, the Self Love Guide, because I feel like people within their mindset, we are so self critical. We have these backgrounds of people, particularly within our community as people of color. We've dealt with things within systemic racism, culturally, growing up in church. stuff on in the home, what goes on in this house stays in this house, and people dealt with abuse, whether it be molestation or assault, so many different things. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just like, so, and then, oh, you're just like your dad, and then you're fighting against all these stigmas. And it's like, now you're telling me how to be positive. Well, how can someone do that if they've always heard the negative? And
Mm-hmm.
it's our brains are like tape recorders, and it just absorbs everything. In order to get that out, you have to put in the good stuff, and you have to debunk the junk. And you
Mm-hmm.
also have to change your circles. And I realized for myself when I joined the military and I moved away, half the battle was my environment. When you're around certain people, and you're like, oh, that's my friend. It's like, is that your friend? Or you guys, the common denominator is trauma. You have trauma bond.
Yeah.
And you have to really look at that situation and reevaluate some friendships. And how did we even become friends? And the premise of that friendship, and what does that really look like? And 50% of my battle was environment. And as I
Mm-hmm.
got out of some of those environments, it's like God just started just purging my mind. And it was a fight, because when you heard certain things for years, for decades, and in certain environments, it's just like that bad tape, And then when you're going through bad situations, like, oh man, I can't believe I did that. Oh, I'm so dumb to do that. And it's like, why would we do that? Because Derek, if you're my friend and you're going through something, I'm not gonna say, man, Derek, you're so stupid. I can't believe you did that, dude. Like, how could you really do that? I'm pretty sure you would not want to be my friend anymore, right?
Right. Yeah. It's like,
So, yeah,
dang,
like,
friend.
kind of tough. She said that with her chest, And it's like, if I would not dare open my mouth and speak to you that way in those moments, why would I do that to myself? We have to extend that same level of grace, kindness, patience, friendship to ourselves
Mm-hmm.
because we need it. We really need that because yes, we made mistakes. Maybe we did some things wrong. Things in life happen. We have some doors closed, but that is not the time to tear yourself down in here.
Mm-hmm.
That's the time to build yourself up even more. And if it means you got to remove yourself, if you literally have to move to another city and start over and start searching for another circle that's more positive, that's going to feed you and pour into you. Because Derek, you know me long enough to know you're my friend and I love you, but I'm not going to co-sign on your foolishness. If I see that you're doing something that's detrimental to your purpose and your assignment, if I'm really your friend, Derek, and I love you as my brother and my friend, Derek, hey man, you're being reckless. You need to shut that down. I'm going to tell you because I don't want your blood to be on my hands because I didn't speak up and say
Mm-hmm.
something.
Yeah. I mean, it's really about accountability, right? Because,
Mm-hmm.
I think at the beginning of any type of friendship, and maybe this goes to answer Deborah's question, but at the beginning of any type of interaction, you have to give people a clean slate, right? Because it's not fair for me to judge you without knowing you based off of my friendships with other people or situations with other people. Now, does that mean that I don't pay attention to signs? No, I'll pay attention to signs, but I'm going to give you the free reign and the ability and the open space to be a friend, without the judgments of, oh well, she looks like she might be mean, or she looks like that she thinks she
Right.
know everything, and so I've dealt, no, what is that, like, no, no. And so for me, it's always been about, when I look at people and I look at friendships and I meet people for the first time, I'm gonna give you the benefit of the doubt because that's only fair. I trust God to protect me from people that have ill intentions and don't have, the best, intentions for their connections with me. God is going to protect that. He's going to watch that. He's going to give me the signs, but he's also going to protect it as well. And so, and for me, I've seen it happen. And I prayed this prayer all the time. And those who are listening, you can feel free to add this to your prayer. I heard this from my pastor, but I say, God, remove people out of my life who don't need to be there, to create space for the people that you have divinely designed to be in my life, to help me move forward into what you have created for me to do. And as soon as I started doing that, people started falling off. People will cancel themselves out. You don't necessarily, a lot of times you don't have to do it.
Listen, I'm getting text messages. I was like, oh, okay.
Oh, right. It's like they will cancel themselves out and you don't even have to do the work.
Oh,
You
you
don't
need
even
to
have to
put
do
your
it.
energy somewhere else? You feel restricted? Okay, bye. See you.
Bye, peace. Because where we're going, and you said this earlier, our circles in the atmosphere. Like if I'm a certain type of person, like people always say they want to work with Beyonce and Jay-Z. there's a certain level of work ethic and that you have to even be considered to be connected to them. And people are like, oh, I want to work for Beyonce, I want to work for Jay-Z, but they don't even come close to possessing the work ethic and the discipline that it takes to be on their level. You could even look at just some of Beyonce's videos or Jay-Z in their conversations to know that they're about business. It looks all successful, but if you're going to be working for them, you're not working for them, the individual brand. You're working for them and their business. They're hiring you to help build a legacy and to make impact on what they are creating for their family and for the world as a whole. And so if you're going to be coming in just to work with them because, oh, I just want to be connected with them, and me connected to them makes me look good, then you're not going to last long in that situation because your intentions are off. But if you're coming in there and you're like, you know what, I see that I can add value to what you're creating, and I can add value to your life as an individual, and I see that you can do the same for me, then we have something that we can start to build upon. And that's with friendships. Definitely. And that's with any kind of relationship when it's dealing with two people coming together, right? And collaborating or just working together or just being in the same space. What is the common connection? What is the common bond? And that's why it's so important, even with your self-love ebook, to know yourself and to know what you value and to have that first love in yourself so that you know yourself when you walk into a room full of strangers. Hey, I know one person. You know what? I know me. I may not know but nobody else, but I know me, and I trust me enough to know how to screen the type of individuals to then allow into my space, whether it's energy, whether it's the type of conversation. Like they say, the old folks say when they get older, they're like, shoot, baby, I am 50 years old. If your conversation comes out wrong, I know you ain't for me. You know what I'm saying? Like I could tell by one conversation, whether you're not. And that just comes with wisdom and experience and knowing yourself, to thy own self be true. So.
Yeah. Or if they're really an OG, they can just walk in the room and say, "No, baby, that's not
it. This ain't it, right? This ain't it. It's time to go, right?"
I love it, Derek. I got to bring you back.
Come
So,
on,
with
come
that
on.
being said, what are some takeaways? Just maybe like your final thought on the conversation that we've had tonight.
I would say, and this was something that I heard it many times before, but it really didn't hit me until now. And is comes from the good book, and it says, love thy neighbor as you first love yourself, as you love yourself. And we have to love ourselves first, because if we don't know how to love ourselves, then we don't know how to love somebody else. And so that just goes back to, I think, the gem that you've created in your ebook, that we really have to do that self work. We always need to look in first, inside, internally, do an introspection. If ever you're in a situation, always look at the thing that you can control, and that's you. Be honest with yourself, be real with yourself. And if you feel like you can't be objective with your own actions, ask a friend, ask someone who knows you, and be open to what they have to say, because that's the only way we grow, is when we are open to hearing even the tough things, even the things that we don't necessarily like, to hear about ourselves so that we can become better. So that's one thing. And the other thing I will leave is, like, and I say this often, be gracious to yourself. And when I say be gracious to yourself, stop being so hard on yourself on decisions you made back in the day based on the wisdom and the experience that you have now. You aren't then, right now you are the matured, with the years of experiences and stuff. You're not the 18-year-old, the 19-year-old, the 20-year-old version right now. So you have to have grace on that particular your you in the past, because you were just doing with what you had at the moment, the experience, the wisdom, the understanding, the maturity that you had in that moment. And a lot of times we'll look back at our past selves and we are hard on that version of ourselves. And it's like, no, baby, you can't do that, because right now you have so much wisdom and understanding that you can see things upside down, inside out. But don't forget where you were in that moment, and then have grace on yourself and be like, you know what? That's what I knew then. And I didn't know any better. And yeah, I made a mistake, but you know what? I did the best with what I had and what I knew. But now I know better. And I think that can heal a lot of our relationship with ourselves, especially with our past selves and our younger selves, when we've done things and we're like, oh, I wish I'd never done that. But that's all you knew. So I just wanted to leave that, like, be gracious to yourself, be easy with yourself, right? Care, love on yourself, forgive yourself, right? And then you'll be able to do that for others.
Brother, you're just so refreshing. Thank you so much for dropping those jewels and those nuggets. I really, really appreciate it. And you are a friend to the show, and you're coming back. So we'll be discussing that soon, very soon.
Awesome. I'm always honored. Always honored.
Thank you. And for those that would like to connect with you on the professional side with your brand, where can people do that on social media?
Social media, Derek D. Ross, everywhere, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. My website is derekdross.com. I'm there 24/7, 7 days a week. I may not be on, but I'm there. You can find me. But yeah, so I made it easy for you to find me, or you can also Google me, Derek D. Ross, and you'll find all my platforms as well.
The Zumba King, yes. And everybody, if you haven't heard, go on my website. My new ebook, The Self-Love Guide, is available right now. You can also pre-order my second ebook, How to Create a Podcast with Less than $100. And don't forget to grab your room spray chemistry. Make the room pop, smell delicious, smell great. 10 fragrances available. That's also on my website at CamilleEsther.com. I hope everyone got something from this episode. This is me. I can't even talk. My braces are wearing me out, sir. This is your girl, Camille Essick, and I'm host of the Speaker Podcast. And until next time, be blessed. Bye-bye.
Peace.